I knew weddings could be chaotic, but I never expected my brother's ceremony to end with me discovering that my fiancé of 2 years was secretly married to my younger sister. I remember the champagne glass slipping from my hand, the crash of crystal on marble, and the way time seemed to fracture as I stood frozen in the hotel hallway, watching them through the cracked door. His hands were on her waist. The pearl necklace I'd given her for her birthday glinted against her throat. And when they kissed, slow and familiar, I realized this wasn't new. This was practiced. While guests danced downstairs and my brother cut his cake, I stood there trying to understand how the two people I trusted most had turned my entire life into a lie. I grew up learning to be the dependable one, the oldest daughter, the responsible sister, the person everyone turned to when things fell apart. My parents always said, "Emma, you're so steady, we never have to worry about you." What they meant was simpler. My sister Lily needed more attention. Lily needed more grace. Lily needed the world to bend around her moods, and I was expected to hold everything together while it did. Lily was born 3 years after me, but you'd think she was the main character in our family story. She had that kind of energy, unpredictable, magnetic, the type of person who walked into a room and made everyone forget what they were talking about. When she laughed, Dad laughed. When she cried, Mom dropped everything. And me? I learned to exist in the margins, quiet and useful, the daughter who didn't need validation because Emma can handle herself. I tried not to question the small betrayals, the way Lily borrowed my clothes without asking and returned them stained or torn, the way she told my secrets at family dinners, spinning them into funny anecdotes that made everyone laugh except me, the way she always seemed to know exactly which wounds to press on, which insecurities to whisper about when no one else was listening. Mom always brushed it off with the same line, "Emma, don't be so sensitive. She's your sister. She loves you." So I stopped complaining. I focused on my career, built a life in my Boston apartment, found stability where I could. And when I met Jason at a work conference 3 years ago, I thought I'd finally found someone who saw me, really saw me, not just as the reliable oldest daughter, but as someone worth choosing first. Jason was everything I'd been told to want, charming, successful, attentive in ways that felt almost too good to be true. He remembered small details, brought me coffee exactly how I liked it, texted me good morning every single day. When he proposed after 18 months, it felt like proof that I deserved good things too, that I wasn't just the background character in everyone else's story. Lily was thrilled, or at least that's what she said. She hugged me tight at the engagement party, tears in her eyes, whispering how happy she was for me. She offered to help plan the wedding, insisted on being my maid of honor, told everyone who would listen how lucky Jason was to have me. I believed her because I wanted to, because the alternative, that my own sister could smile to my face while plotting something unthinkable, felt too cruel to be possible. That's why on my brother Ryan's wedding day, even as I stood in that hotel hallway watching my fiancé kiss my sister, part of me still searched for an explanation that made sense. Maybe I was seeing things wrong. Maybe it was an accident, some weird misunderstanding. Maybe the sick feeling spreading through my chest was just wedding stress and too much champagne. But then Lily pulled back, smiled up at Jason, and said something that made him laugh. That laugh, the one I thought was mine, the one that happened when he was truly, genuinely happy, and I realized with perfect, devastating clarity that I'd never actually heard him laugh like that with me. I don't remember walking back to my room, don't remember the elevator ride or fumbling with my key card. I only remember sitting on the edge of the hotel bed, still in my bridesmaid dress, staring at my engagement ring and trying to figure out when my life had turned into a lie. My phone buzzed. "Jason, where are you? Missing you at the reception." Missing me, as if he had any idea where I actually was, as if he'd ever really seen me at all. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and did what I should have done months ago. I searched. Jason's social media, carefully curated but not careful enough. Old posts, tagged photos, comments from friends, and there, buried in archives from 2 years ago, wedding photos. Small ceremony, courthouse steps, Jason in a navy suit and Lily in a white dress I'd never seen before. My hands shook as I scrolled through the images. Their wedding had happened 6 months before I even met Jason. 6 months before he walked up to me at that conference and introduced himself like I was the first person he'd ever really wanted to know. The dates aligned with sickening precision. Every business trip Jason took that I thought was for work, every weekend Lily claimed she was visiting friends in Vermont, every holiday when they both happened to be unavailable at the same time. It wasn't a sudden affair. It was a sustained, calculated deception that had been happening in parallel to my entire relationship.
I thought about every family dinner where they sat across from each other, playing strangers. Every time Lily asked me about wedding plans, taking notes like a concerned sister instead of a woman who was already married to my fiancé. Every time Jason kissed me goodbye and told me he loved me before driving to wherever she was waiting. The hotel room walls felt too close. I needed air, needed space, needed anything but this suffocating realization. I grabbed my phone and did the only thing that made sense. I called the one person who'd never lied to me. My brother Ryan answered on the second ring, slightly breathless from dancing. "Emma, everything okay?" "No," I said, voice steadier than I felt. "I need you to come to room 407, now, and don't tell anyone." He must have heard something in my tone because he didn't ask questions, just said, "I'm coming," and hung up. Ryan arrived 7 minutes later, still in his tuxedo, face flushed with concern. When he saw me sitting there, laptop open to those wedding photos, his expression shifted from confusion to rage so fast it was almost frightening. He read the screen, then looked at me. "How long have you known?" 20 minutes, I whispered. He sat beside me heavily, running his hair through his hair. "Jesus, Emma, on my wedding day?" I almost laughed at the absurdity. "Sorry for the timing." He shook his head. I didn't mean." He exhaled hard. "What do you need? What can I do?" "I need evidence," I said, surprised by how calm I sounded. "I need documentation, because when I confront them, I need to make sure they can't gaslight me into thinking I'm crazy." Ryan pulled out his phone. "Okay, let's start with what we know." He opened his notes app and began typing. "They've been married for 2 years. You've been engaged for 1. They've been lying to you, to all of us this entire time." He looked up. "Do Mom and Dad know?" "I don't know," I admitted, "but I'm going to find out." We spent the next hour building a timeline. Every inconsistency, every suspicious absence, every moment that hadn't quite added up. Ryan called his wife, Charlotte, explained the situation, and she immediately started gathering information from other family members, carefully, quietly, without revealing why. By midnight, we had enough. Screenshots, archived posts, testimonies from Ryan's friends who'd seen Jason and Lily together months before the supposed introduction. One of Charlotte's bridesmaids even remembered Lily mentioning a husband last year, though she'd laughed it off as a joke when questioned. It wasn't a joke. It was the truth slipping through the cracks of an elaborate performance. Ryan looked at me with something between pity and fury. "What are you going to do?" I stared at the evidence we'd compiled, at the proof of a betrayal so massive it had its own infrastructure. "I'm going to tell them I know. Tomorrow. In front of everyone." Ryan started to protest, then stopped. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." The next morning came with artificial brightness, the kind of sunlight that felt personally offensive given the circumstances. My parents had organized a family brunch at their house, a post-wedding celebration for close relatives. Everyone would be there, including Jason and Lily. I dressed carefully, applied makeup to hide the fact that I hadn't slept, and practiced my speech in the mirror until my voice stopped shaking. Ryan picked me up at 9, Charlotte in the passenger seat, both of them watching me with careful concern. "You don't have to do this today," Charlotte said gently. "You could wait, process, figure out your next steps privately." I shook my head. They've had 2 years to come clean. They chose deception every single day. I'm done waiting for them to develop a conscience. When we arrived at my parents' house, the dining room was already full. Mom had outdone herself with the spread. Bagels and lox, fresh fruit, mimosas in crystal glasses. It looked like a magazine spread for happy families. The irony wasn't lost on me. Lily sat by the window, laughing at something Dad said, looking radiant in a yellow sundress. Jason stood near the coffee station, chatting with my uncle, completely at ease. They looked like people who belonged there, like people who had nothing to hide. I walked in, and every muscle in my body screamed to run, but I didn't. I set my purse down, accepted a mimosa I had no intention of drinking, and waited for the right moment. Mom called everyone to sit. We gathered around the table, passing plates, filling glasses, settling into the comfortable rhythm of family. Ryan sat beside me, close enough that I could feel his support without him saying a word. My father stood to make a toast. "To Ryan and Charlotte," he began, "and to all of us. Family is everything." Family is everything. The words settled over the table like a blessing, and I felt something inside me crystallize into resolve. I stood up. My chair scraped against the hardwood, too loud in the sudden quiet. Everyone turned to look at me. "I'd like to say something," I announced, voice clear. Mom smiled, expecting sentiment. "Of course, sweetheart." I looked at Jason, then at Lily. They both stared back, expressions neutral, waiting. "I found something interesting yesterday," I began. "While everyone was celebrating Ryan and Charlotte, I discovered that my fiancé and my sister have been married for 2 years. The silence was total, absolute, the kind of quiet that happens when reality fractures. Mom's smile froze. "What?" Jason's face went pale. "Emma, I pulled out my phone, displayed the wedding photo for everyone to see. "This is from October 2022, 6 months before Jason and I supposedly met for the first time." I looked around the table. They've been lying to all of us. Every family dinner, every holiday, every conversation about my wedding plans. All of it was a performance while they maintained a secret marriage. Lily's expression finally cracked. Her carefully constructed innocence collapsed into something defensive, almost feral. "You had no right to go through private information." "Private?" I repeated, incredulous. "You married my fiancé. There's nothing private about that level of betrayal." Dad found his voice, rough with shock. "Is this true?" Jason opened his mouth, then closed it, and tried again. "It's complicated." "No," Ryan cut in, standing beside me. "It's actually very simple. You married Emma's sister, then started a relationship with Emma while staying married to Lily. That's not complicated. That's fraud."
Lily turned to Mom, tears already forming. "You don't understand," she pleaded. "Jason and we were young. It was a mistake." "If it was a mistake," Mom said slowly, "why didn't you divorce him? Why did you let your sister plan a wedding to your husband?" Lily's tears fell faster. "Because I didn't want to lose him." The honesty of it was almost shocking. She didn't even try to pretend it was about protecting me or not knowing how to tell me. It was just about what she wanted, what she was afraid of losing. Consequences be damned. Jason finally spoke, but he was looking at Lily, not me. "We need to tell them everything." "Everything?" I repeated. "What else could there possibly be?" He turned to me, and for the first time since I'd known him, he looked genuinely uncomfortable. "The engagement," he started, "it was Lily's idea." The room tilted. "What?" Lily wiped her face, smearing mascara. We wanted to see if we could do it, if we could make you believe something that wasn't real." She laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "You were always so perfect, so responsible, so loved by everyone. I wanted to know what it felt like to take something from you, to be chosen first for once." Mom gasped, "Lily, no!" But Lily was unraveling now, words spilling faster. "You don't know what it's like," she said, looking at me with genuine anguish, "being the disappointment, being the one everyone compares to perfect Emma. Do you know how many times I heard, 'Why can't you be more like your sister?' Do you know what that does to a person?" "So you decided to destroy my life?" I said flatly. "That was your solution?" "Not destroy," she insisted, "just make you feel what I felt, make you understand what it's like to be second." Jason put his hand on Lily's shoulder, a gesture so familiar it made my stomach turn. "We didn't plan for it to go this far," he said quietly, "but then you said yes, and it felt like we'd gone too far to stop." "You could have stopped at any point," Ryan said, voice hard. "You could have told the truth literally any day for the past 2 years." "I know," Jason admitted. "I know." My mother was crying now, staring at Lily like she was seeing a stranger. "How could you do this to your sister?" "How could you let her have everything?" Lily shot back. "You always chose her, always made excuses for why she got more, did better, deserved more attention. I'm your daughter too." And there it was, the root of everything laid bare across my parents' dining table. Years of perceived favoritism, real or imagined, had twisted into something so destructive it had consumed all of us. Dad's voice was barely a whisper. "We failed you both." The admission hung in the air, too little and too late, because even if my parents had failed, even if Lily had grown up feeling secondary, nothing justified what she'd done, nothing excused the calculated cruelty of making me fall in love with her husband while pretending to support me. I looked at my engagement ring, the diamond catching morning light, and slowly pulled it off my finger. I set it on the table between Jason and Lily. "I'm done," I said simply, "with this engagement, with your explanations, with pretending any of this is salvageable." Jason reached for the ring. "Emma, please, we can what?" I interrupted. "Continue lying? Pretend this was just a misunderstanding? You married my sister, started a relationship with me as some kind of twisted experiment, and let me plan a wedding that was never going to happen. What part of that is forgivable?" He had no answer. Neither of them did. I turned to my parents. "I love you both, but I need space from this family. I need time to figure out who I am when I'm not performing the role of reliable oldest daughter who absorbs everyone else's damage." Mom reached for me. "Sweetheart, don't." I stepped back gently. "I'm not abandoning you. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference."
Ryan stud. "I'll take you home." Charlotte was already gathering my things. As we walked toward the door, I heard Lily call my name, voice breaking. I didn't turn around. In Ryan's car, I finally let myself cry. Not delicate tears, but the kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep and primal. The sound of grief meeting rage, meeting relief. Ryan drove in silence, letting me break apart in his passenger seat, while Charlotte reached back to hold my hand. When we arrived at my apartment, they both came inside. Charlotte made tea, Ryan ordered food I wouldn't eat, and together they sat with me while I tried to piece together what my life looked like now. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages from family members who'd heard what happened. Some supportive, some demanding explanation, some angry that I'd caused a scene. I turned it off. "Do you want me to call a lawyer?" Ryan asked. "Not yet," I said, "but soon." Because beyond the emotional devastation was a practical reality. Jason and I had joint accounts, we'd put deposits down on wedding venues, we'd merged our lives in ways that would take months to untangle, and somewhere in that mess was the question of whether what they'd done was legally actionable, whether their deception crossed the line from betrayal into fraud. But that was tomorrow's problem.
Today, I just needed to sit in my apartment with my brother and his wife and remember that not everyone I loved had lied to me, that some people were exactly who they claimed to be. Days turned into weeks. I hired a lawyer who specialized in fraud and began the process of extricating myself from every shared aspect of my life with Jason. Bank accounts, insurance policies, the apartment lease we'd signed together, everything had to be carefully, methodically separated. The worst part wasn't the logistics, it was the realization that I couldn't trust my own judgment. I'd looked at Jason every day for 2 years and seen love. What else had I missed? What other lies had I swallowed without question? My therapist, a woman named Dr. Chen, who I started seeing the week after the revelation, helped me understand that this wasn't about intelligence or intuition. Some people are professional deceivers, she explained. They study you, learn what you want to see, and reflect it back until you can't tell the difference between reality and performance. Jason and Lily were master performers, and I'd been the perfect audience, so eager to believe in love and sisterhood that I'd ignored every warning sign. 3 months after that terrible brunch, I filed a civil suit. My lawyer found precedent: fraud claims based on fraudulent inducement and intentional infliction of emotional distress. We weren't sure we'd win, but we wanted them to face consequences that mattered. The deposition was excruciating, sitting across from Jason while lawyers asked detailed questions about our relationship, about every lie he'd told, every intimate moment we'd shared that had been built on deception. He looked smaller somehow, diminished by the clinical nature of legal proceedings. Lily refused to attend her deposition. She sent a statement instead, claiming mental health struggles and asking for leniency. My lawyer shredded it methodically, pointing out that mental illness didn't excuse calculated fraud. My parents tried to stay neutral, but struggled. Mom called weekly, begging me to consider family therapy, to find a way to forgive. Dad sent emails with subject lines like healing and moving forward that I couldn't bring myself to open. Ryan was my constant. He and Charlotte included me in their lives, invited me to dinners, called just to check in. They never pressured me to reconcile, never suggested I was overreacting. They just loved me steadily, which was more than I'd realized I needed. 6 months after that morning at the ER of my life, my lawyer called with news. We'd reached a settlement. Jason and Lily would pay damages, enough to cover my legal fees and therapy costs, and the deposits I'd lost on the wedding that never happened. It wasn't life-changing money, but it was acknowledgement, proof that what they'd done was real and wrong. More importantly, they had to sign a statement admitting to their deception. It would be part of the public record, a permanent mark that they couldn't explain away or minimize. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt tired. The final hearing was brief. The judge reviewed the settlement, asked if I agreed to the terms, and signed the order. Jason and Lily sat on the opposite side of the courtroom, not looking at each other or at me. Whatever bond they'd had seemed broken by the weight of what they'd done. As I left the courthouse, Ryan waiting by the car, I realized I didn't hate them anymore. I didn't love them either. They'd become strangers, people I used to know who'd revealed themselves to be someone else entirely. Mom was waiting at my apartment when I got home. She'd let herself in with the spare key I kept forgetting to ask for back. She looked older somehow, worn down by months of family fracture. "I'm sorry," she said without preamble, "for not protecting you, for not seeing what was happening, for making you feel like you had to be perfect." I sat beside her on the couch. "You weren't wrong that I was reliable, but you were wrong to mistake reliability for not needing care." She nodded, tears sliding down her face. "I know. I'm trying to do better. I'm in therapy too now." That surprised me. "Yeah?" Trying to figure out how I created an environment where one daughter felt so invisible she destroyed the other to be seen. She looked at me. "I don't expect you to forgive me quickly, but I hope eventually you can." "I'm working on it," I told her honestly. "But Mom, if you want me back in your life, Lily can't be there. Not yet. Maybe not ever." She took a shaky breath. I understand. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. More than I'd expected, less than I needed. A year after my brother's wedding, Ryan and Charlotte invited me to their anniversary dinner. Small gathering, just close friends, the kind of celebration that felt safe. I almost didn't go. Social anxiety had become my constant companion, the fear that everyone was performing, that I couldn't trust what I saw. But I went, and it was okay. Good, even. I laughed at Ryan's terrible jokes. I talked to Charlotte's friend Marcus about his new business. I drank wine and ate good food, and remembered what it felt like to exist in a space where people were simply themselves. Marcus asked for my number at the end of the night. I gave it to him, surprised by my own boldness. We started texting, casual at first, then more frequently. He knew my story. Ryan had told him the basics, but he didn't treat me like broken glass. He just treated me like someone worth getting to know. Our first date was coffee, public and low stakes. Our second was a museum, where we spent 3 hours debating modern art. By the third, I'd stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. Marcus isn't Jason. He's slower, steadier, someone who shows you exactly who he is and trusts you to decide if that's enough. Sometimes I catch myself watching him, looking for cracks in the facade, but Dr. Chen reminds me that healing isn't linear. Trust takes time to rebuild, and I'm allowed to move at my own pace. I still don't talk to Lily. She sent letters, long, rambling apologies that somehow still center her pain more than mine. I don't respond. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday I'll have enough distance to hear her without feeling that old wound reopen, but not yet. My relationship with my parents is better, carefully reconstructed with new boundaries and honest conversations. They're learning to see me as complete, not just competent, and I'm learning to ask for what I need instead of waiting for them to guess. I moved apartments last month, something with bigger windows and a view of the harbor. I painted the walls colors I actually liked instead of builder-grade beige. I bought furniture that was mine, not ours, not compromised. I built a space that felt like it belonged to the person I'm becoming. Some people say family forgiveness is mandatory, but I've learned that real healing doesn't demand you swallow poison to keep the peace. It protects, it honors your truth, and sometimes it means walking away from people who taught you to doubt your own reality. I'm still learning what a healthy life looks like, still finding my footing in a world where people sometimes mean what they say. But if my story proves anything, it's that you can survive betrayal that should have destroyed you. You can rebuild from ruins. You can choose yourself even when everyone tells you family comes first. If you've ever carried a wound like mine, know that you're not dramatic, you're not oversensitive, you're not the problem, and you deserve people who love you without making you smaller. Share your story if you need to, and if you want more real stories like this, make sure you're subscribed. You're not alone in this.